Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, joined by my beautiful bride on this Memorial Day. Of course, we want to say thank you to every single family who on this day celebrates differently because your family paid the ultimate price. You sacrificed a daughter or a son or a mom or a dad or a cousin or a friend, whatever it may be, on this holiday. I know our family celebrates because we've lost family members, and we celebrate the fact that we have heroes in our family that were willing to die for something bigger than themselves. Greater love has nobody than they're willing to put down their life for someone. So we honor you, and it's about hot dogs and hamburgers because we celebrate those people, and they should be celebrated. They're heroes, but we also deeply remember. And it's a very, very special day, and it's always a great day when I'm with you. How are you, sweetheart?
Good.
Good. So I'm in my American flag gear and you're in your Michigan State gear, but you're wearing red lipstick. So we're good. All
A
right.
little chilly today.
All right. Here we go. Go ahead, Shannon. Fire away.
All right, Hondo, your position group podcasts have been nothing short of sensational. I feel like I know every part of this team, and you have taught me how to think like a GM. In 28 years of following the Raiders, I have never been more informed. I am so grateful. What considerations go into a trade at this point in the season? Zach B.
Zach B. Wow. That is a tremendous compliment, Zach B. And thank you that you would say that you feel informed. That makes me feel good that we've given you information that's helped you. Um, so let me just first of all say thank you. Thank you for being very kind. If you have an email, by the way, that you want us to read, you send me an email, Spartan Nation Mail, MAIL at yahoo.com. I do not read them all. Can't, just can't. We get so many. And but they're read. And then what they're done is they're put into groups. So if 10 or 12 people ask the same question, we know, hey, that's a pressing question for Raider Nation. That's going to get in the next podcast. Um, then we look for which ones are best written and which ones get to the point succinctly. Some people will send us 3 and 4 paragraphs. We just literally can't read them. So if it's that, it just kind of gets disposed of. And if you email us more than once per week per email address, that automatically goes to spam. And quite frankly, we look for ones that are, we get some you effing effer, effer, ff. We just get rid of that. If you say you hate me, that's fine. But if your language is terrible, we just are not going to use it on the podcast. So thank you for all that. So Zach B, what considerations goes into a trade this time of year? That's a great question. So, by the way, we're going to have a special guest. You know who I'm talking about, right? I told you today he may come on the podcast.
Okay.
Remember? And who can really give people a lot and might come on. So we're working on it. But so I can give you a little bit of wisdom right now. So every team has every other team scouted. So on their boards, they'll know, okay, here's a potential guy that the Raiders may cut. Here's a potential guy the Giants may cut or whomever. So they're looking at, okay, if they may cut him, are we willing to wait for him to get cut to see how many other teams want him? And then it's a bidding war. Or maybe we can get him cheap because they're going to probably cut him anyways. They look at that. Then the other thing is okay, if we've got young players who we think might be something and we don't think we're a Super Bowl team, and that's where the Raiders are right now. Do we, and when I say we, because he asked me to think like the team, obviously I'm not the team. Do we stand with our young guys? Or, hey, we don't have enough guys here to even compete. We need a vet, and it's a 1-year deal. So we can go get him and let him go at the end of the season. And the price, there's so many different things that go into it. And then it's okay, do we wait and get a couple weeks into training camp and maybe then try to make a move, just before the first cut down? So there's a lot of different things, but the biggest one is if they're going to make a trade and it's somebody that's got some time on their deal, are they young? I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Actually, I have another question about a trade, and I'm going to use as an example. So there you go. I think that is that's the kind of stuff that goes into it right now. Is it a position where we have nobody, so we need a body? And then, but if we need a body, is it worth trading if it's more than a 1 year deal? If we don't think they're a long term answer, or hey, we really like this guy, he's young, let's go get him. A lot of different variables go in, and they may look ahead and say, okay, here are 2 or 3 guys we think other teams may cut that we like. So those are the type of things that are going into it right now. How do you make the jambalaya?
Hondo, if the Raiders, and no one expects them to win the Super Bowl this year.
I know you do. This lady's been arguing with me. She goes, we are going to the Super Bowl, Hondo. I'm like, no, you're not. She goes, yes, we are. We're going to the Super Bowl, and I'm going. So I told her if they go, I will buy her a ticket. Her and Dexter can go to the Super Bowl because I'm going to be there covering it. I will buy you tickets, and we can get them.
It's called optimism.
And she's ready
Always
to go.
going to think positive.
Okay.
Okay. If the Raiders were to win the Super Bowl, would they be wise enough to extend key players for the upcoming season? Michael Brooks from Charlotte, North Carolina.
So if I understand it correctly, his question is, if the Raiders win the Super Bowl, would they then be wise enough to extend players? Yeah, of course.
Exactly. I could have answered that question.
But it was still a good question.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying that.
Well, that's because you have information others don't. So yes, there will be players getting extensions.
Okay. Next. Good afternoon, Uncle Hondo. I really enjoy your position breakdown and all the talk about Pete, John S., the draft, and Ashton. You've mentioned the Raiders' biggest offseason moves. I'd love to hear a little more about Chip Kelly. I have been integrated since we brought him on board, and in my
Integrated
opinion,
or interested?
I'm sorry, intrigued, jeepers. Who taught me how to read?
Integrated?
Just
Wait. You read like I speak.
then we make a good team. Oh, jeepers. Maybe I need a nap. I'd love to hear a little more about Chip Kelly. I have been intrigued since we brought him on board.
Not
And
integrated?
yeah, jeepers. And in my opinion, I think getting him was a huge off-season move for us. What do you think Chip will bring to our offense? Thank you for your time, sir. Sir. Looking forward to hearing from you and appreciate all of your time. Levi Stout from New Mexico.
Hey, Levi, remember, when you're in New Mexico, you always get Christmas. The red sauce and the green sauce. Always get Christmas. All right.
Always.
It is, isn't it? All right. I'm hungry. All right. So here, well, you promised me BLTs for dinner, and I love your BLTs. Okay, sorry. Let's keep going. So, a couple things. First of all, Chip Kelly was an exceptional coach all the way through Oregon. He got to the NFL and had some struggles. I think he was humbled a little bit. Then he, had some other issues. Not, when I say other, I don't mean character or anything like that. Just adjusting. I thought Chip Kelly, and listen, he was great at Oregon, but I thought his best play calling was last year. You can see where his offense, it still uses RPOs, but nothing like it used to. And he has acclimated or integrated his offense to fit the NFL. I think what you're getting right now in Chip Kelly, and I have heard people say he was a horrible head coach. I totally disagree. I don't think he was horrible. I don't think he was a great head coach, but I don't think he was horrible at all. In fact, I think he did better than in the NFL than people give him credit for. But I think you're getting a humbler Chip Kelly, and I think one with a chip on his shoulder who has matured. His offense used to be great in college, but the problem is in college, the talent pool is so vast that his offense was not as great when he tried to run his college offense in the pros. It just doesn't equate when everybody's good. It just doesn't equate. But he's adjusted it, and I really like his offense. I love what he did at Ohio State. He literally ran a pro set attack spread offense. And I know that sounds weird, but that's really what he did. Um, I think Pete Carroll and Geno Smith were the two biggest off-season additions, but Chip was 3. And I think I first of all, I like Chip Kelly, the person, and I think he's a great coach. I think he is a great offensive coach. And I'm going to go a step farther. Many people believed him and Josh McDaniels were 2 offensive savants. Now, our personal affinity for Josh. Wonderful guy, great coordinator, terrible head coach. Okay. I think that Chip is a superior offensive mind to him, and I think Josh is great. And I think one area that Chip, and he displayed it at Ohio State. I think what he did at Ohio State, showing how he had changed and adapt his system, showed us some maturity that I think was really impressive. So again, I if I could have picked an offensive coordinator for the Raiders, there probably would have been 2 guys that I looked at, and Chip would have been one of the 2. And no, Josh wouldn't have been the other. And he's the highest paid offensive coordinator, and a brilliant move. Absolutely brilliant move. And I think Chip's going to have a massive impact on this team. If you go back, and we have the video up, if you go back and watch the video when he first got introduced, he said something that you've heard me scream. Shannon, who's a big fan, has heard me say, your team is never going to win until they get this mentality. And he said it. His very first press conference, he said, it's my job to alter my system to my talent. And for too long, the Raiders have tried to make the talent fit a scheme. It's like with Dexter. We were joking about this. We have 2 of our daughters literally potty train themselves. Literally potty train themselves. And Dexter has almost potty. I mean, he's not potty trained himself like the girls, but
Close.
Close. And then I had another son that I had to pay to potty train. We had to pay there. Problem is, we potty trained him at 3, and then when he heard us telling the story later in his life, he's like, "Where's my money?" So I guess we didn't really have to pay, but anyways, you have to adjust. Every team is different, and I love that about Chip. Okay, let's keep going.
Good afternoon, Uncle Hondo. Oh, wait a minute. I already did that one. Hey, Uncle Hondo. Just wanted to start off by saying I love your show. I had the privilege of meeting you last year at training camp in Costa Mesa and wanted you to know how much I appreciated you taking the time to say hello. My question is, how soon do you think this team can catch on to Chip's system? How does his offense compare to Josh McDaniels' offense in terms of complexity? There are people saying the Raiders could have a top 10 offense, but I'm not getting my hopes up just yet. I made that mistake with her defense last year, and I'm not going to do that again. What are your thoughts? God bless you and your family. Vic Romero from LA.
Vic, I don't know what you mean when you talk about the defense. They had 9 starters go out injured.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you can be. I mean, you got your hope up, but they lose Malcolm days before the season, Christian early, Max Spills was injured for a time. I mean, Epps, all of the injuries. That's not really on the defense. The defense didn't fail. It just literally their bodies did.
Right.
Chip Kelly's has adapted his system, and they're already adapting. So I would say I think there's always a learning curve because you don't really play a lot in the preseason. So I would say by week 3, they'll be doing well. By week 5, they'll be hitting on all cylinders. I like his system significantly better than Josh's, and I think it's significantly easier to pick up because he tailors it to what people do. Great question. Great question, Vic.
Okay. Uncle Hando, I am totally digging the positional breakdowns. I feel like the football computer in your head is downloading into my brain. Thanks. I also wanted to tell you that after watching the linebacker edition, I went from total concern and cautiously optimistic. I love the comparisons. Could you see a trade for a linebacker, Mike R?
From total concern to cautiously optimistic. Thank you so much. I'll tell you what, I don't remember ever getting this much email on the positional breakdowns. People have really enjoyed those, and I am really grateful for all your emails. I mean, massive amounts of it. And thank you so much. I could absolutely see the Raiders making a trade for a linebacker. Absolutely. I also, if you didn't watch the positional linebacker, go back and watch it. Um, I think it was on Thursday, but go back and watch it because it was there's a lot of youth there. There's a lot of youth with it's not just hope. There's actual faith. There's substance there. I talked about faith is a substance of what you hope for. It was substantive. And so I could totally see a linebacker. I could. If it especially if it was a young one with a lot of upside, or if they're concerned into training camp a little bit about how the young ones are coming along, I could see a trade for like a 1-year guy if the cost wasn't too high. So I could see either that, a youthful guy that you totally believe in long term, or an older guy that you think you can get 1 year out of to help as a bridge. But if I'm sitting there and I'm Spytek and my veterans do anything, I'm sitting there thinking I'm going to ride with some of these young pups. You got to have a pup before you can have a dog. And we enjoy our older children. We love them dearly and enjoy them and enjoy being with them. And we were laughing because we were with Dexter today and he's potty training, and you got to go through potty training and baby stuff to get them to the age when they're adults and enjoyable. And it's the same way with young players. Young players make young mistakes. I always remember a great piece of advice my dad gave me on parenting. And I said to my dad before oldest daughter was born, I said, I'm really nervous because you're such a great dad. I don't know what to do. And I remember he talked about, you didn't come with a owner's manual, but he talked about the benefit that I was his sixth living child. And I'll never forget, he said this, is understand they're going to make mistakes and be a dad who, when they screw up, their heart is, oh my God, I got to go see dad. Not, oh my God, I hope dad doesn't find out.
Right.
And it wasn't doing it in a way of taking the Lord's name in vain, which that doesn't even mean, but it wasn't like, oh my God, like disrespectful. It was, oh God, I got to get to my dad. I screwed up. And so that, again, young players make young mistakes. And we live in a time where nobody shows grace to anybody.
Unfortunately.
And young players look at Jacorian Bennett year 1. People were ready to throw him away. Then last year, oh yeah, he's a dog. He's a dog. Okay. And then look at Geno Smith. He was terrible early in his career. And now he's a top 15 quarterback in the National Football League, making tens of millions of dollars because they let a young pup become a dog.
Mm-hmm.
So that I could totally see a trade, but if I'm sitting there and I'm Spytek, now it depends on how they develop. I don't know that I'm making a trade today. I'm thinking I'm going to wait unless I can go get a really good young player. I'm thinking let's see what some of these pups come along. All right, I'm sorry, that's a long answer.
Hondo, last season in Costa Mesa, I met you and you signed my helmet. I know there were a lot of people, but I called my grandson and you graciously talked on the phone with him. He still raves about it, talking to his hero, and wants to be a journalist like you one day. Is there anything about Patrick Graham that you think people are missing about him? From Javier L. P.S. I am Mexican, and although Papacitos is not a Mexican restaurant,
Yes, it is.
You interrupt.
Oh, sorry.
It is Tex-Mex. And we tried it when in San Antonio this year because you love it. And it is our new favorite spot. Thanks.
All right, I'll take that.
Okay.
That's fair, Javier. So let me say this. First of all, I did not remember signing a helmet. I'm sorry. You get asked by people to do stuff like that. But I do remember talking to his grandson. And I remember your grandson saying he was thinking about becoming a journalist. So that's a great field. Remember, media is a great field. I was speaking at a commencement recently, and I made the comment, media is an admirable profession for people who are admirable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's great that he wants to do it. As he gets closer to his senior year of high school, have him reach out to me. I don't know how old he is, but have him reach out to me. But I do remember talking to him on the phone. It's great to hear. And please tell him I remember that conversation fondly. In fact, I joked with him about, I'll be glad to help you as long as you don't go to one school. Do you know what the school was?
Probably
Think.
a school that has colors that we don't like.
Yeah, a school that has colors we don't like. Michigan. Not the good school. Not the good school. The Michigan Wolverines. And we have so many friends that are Wolverines. We love to just pick on you. But I do remember. So tell them that he wants me to tell him something about Patrick Graham he doesn't remember.
Is there anything about Patrick Graham that you think people are missing about him?
Yes. Now you have to understand, he went to Yale. He is so smart. He is one of the smartest people. Now, in the interest of fair disclosure, I consider him a friend. Okay. I just love Patrick. I think he should be a head coach. Right now, I think it's a joke that he isn't. He's extremely ethereal. And so what happens is people hear him talk, and he's one of these guys that is thinking the entire time he's talking. He's very, very smart. And so I don't think people value how smart he is. I don't have permission to tell you who this is. I wish I did. I should have asked before the podcast. If I'd known that question was on there, I would have. But an individual who played for Patrick, not with the Raiders, once told me that he was watching film, a practice, and went to the team's offensive coordinator and says, and I don't remember if it was a tackle or a guard, is giving away pass and told him what the guy was doing. And the coordinator didn't even know about it. And he's just like, he does that stuff all the time. He comes up with stuff. He'll be on the field waiting. They're doing special teams, and he's not a special teams coach, but he's watching. And he'll come up and go to the special teams coach. Hey, here's something you may want to work on. He sees the game like a savant. And in the interest of fair disclosure, is one of the nicest human beings to walk planet Earth. Everybody who deals with Patrick Graham loves him. And if they don't, they're the problem. He is brutally honest. And I consider it a real honor that I get to call him a friend. And I believe in him and I respect him. I think nothing but the world of him. He's an amazing father, a great husband, a super coach. And I cannot even begin to tell you the number of lives of his players he has touched with wisdom. He is a father to many. and a great man. And I just think sometimes that gets missed because people only get to see him 20 minutes a week at a press conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I just I don't want to embarrass a player, but there was a player who was really struggling last year. And to say really struggling, I'm being generous. He was terrible. And in practice, he just walks over and puts his arm around him.
Mm.
I have no idea what he said. I'm on the sidelines. And he walked back, and that player who was having a terrible practice just lit up. And I said to the player in the locker room after, I said, "Hey, I noticed Patrick put your arm around you." And what'd he say? And the player, he just goes, he told me, "Regardless of how you play, I love you. I care about you. But you need to know these opportunities aren't promised.
Mm-hmm.
So take a deep breath. It's the same game you've been playing your whole life. You're trying too hard. Relax and have some fun." And the guy goes, "It was just calming."
Right.
I wish people knew that Patrick Graham that we have the privilege of, and just I think he is able to relate to the Max Crosbys, and he's able to relate to the guys on the practice squad that'll probably never make a 53-man roster. It is very rare for a person to have that type of personality that they can relate to everyone. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
So very, and you've seen that with doctors. You're a nurse. Some doctors are able to relate to everybody and they're wonderful. Some are arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
Some think they know everything because they're a doctor. I'll tell you a funny story. Shannon is a highly sought after nurse. She's extremely respected. She has saved numerous lives where doctors will call her and say thank you. And she has such a tremendous track record, that you are the only nurse that we know of that had admitting rights. You were literally, most people don't know because you don't know the medical field. Most people, the doctor is the only one who can admit a patient into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But where she works, they have told her, if you feel that we need to admit a patient, you have that authority.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a massive, I know you,
Huge compliment.
yeah, I know you would never say it. And as soon as we're done with the podcast, you're going to yell at me. But I'm so proud of you because you've earned that. I mean, how many times we've been in a car and a doctor's called you like, "I got to take this call. It's the doctor." And he's like, "Shannon, thank you for telling me I was wrong. This person would have died." And because of that, so and I say all that because it's in every field. It's in journalism. You either love people or you don't.
Right.
And I love that Patrick Graham genuinely loves, if you give maximum effort, Patrick Graham's going to love you whether you're never going to play
Mm-hmm.
or you're Max Crosby and you're the best in the NFL. And I just wish people knew the character of the man in the football brain. Tremendous human being.
Mm. Yep. All right. Hey, Hondo, I appreciate the coverage you do. Last year, the Raiders' run game struggled mightily, and some analysts stated they didn't like the Jeanty pick because a bad line. Do you think the lack of a quarterback last year has had as big of an impact on our run game as our line? From Javin D.
From Javin.
Yes.
First of all, Javin, I don't comment on other media people because literally not you, but that stupidity. You don't go pick Gene T. You don't go pick whoever. The line was bad. Okay, I think the line is very strong on this team.
Right.
It's very young,
Right.
and young players make
Mistakes.
young mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, that type of stuff is lazy journalism. Now, if there's a particular player you don't like, I like Ashton Jeanty. So do you. I like this offensive line, but I that's why I don't comment on other media. other media, Raiders in panic over Christian Wilkins. No, they're not. You know that for a fact. They're not in panic. No. Okay. I've said all along, they expect him ready for the season. Every injury, and maybe it's because of me having you, thank the Lord. It's not uncommon to go back and have a second surgery to clean up scar tissue, or maybe because of swelling, they weren't able to do all that they needed to do. Or sometimes you got to go back and adjust something. But I mean, if somebody would have seen me a couple of weeks ago, I needed a boot. And it's been a while since my surgery, but I needed it for a short period. But they get everybody panicked. Now, not everybody who reported on this was doing bad reporting.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some trying to throw Raider Nation into a panic, and that's why we were just like, relax. It's all good. So that's why I don't comment on other analysts. But good question. I think it was an excellent pick. And I think you're going to be just tickled pink with Jeanty. All right, let's keep going.
Hello, Hendo and Shannon. The other day I was looking over the Raiders depth chart, which prompted me to ask you this question. On paper, the linebacker unit looks thin on talent and frankly underwhelming. The departure of Spillane and Diablo are definitely noticeable. Devin White seems to have become something of a journeyman lately, and while Roberts has some solid traits, he's not on Spillane's level. I don't know the personnel like you do, Hondo, but would you agree that the second line of our defense is the weakest group on the team? And with our available cap space, do you think a trade could be on the horizon? Appreciate all you guys do and love your work. Best, Stephen M. from Texas.
I think I already addressed the trade part, but I would have you go back and watch my podcast. It was Thursday, Friday, I don't remember, but it was about the linebacker. I think the two weakest positions on this team right now, and I think that could change by the end of the season because you're relying on a lot of young pups to become dogs, is corner and linebacker. Now, I'll tell you, is there another question there about trades? No, I know coming up.
Oh, coming up. I haven't read through all
Okay.
of them.
All right. I promised somebody I would talk about a trade, so let's keep going.
All right. Hi, Hendo. Thanks for the work you do. My question, Tom Brady said on an interview that he had no input on quarterbacks in the Raiders draft. You have said Tom speaks with integrity, so I believe him. Does his statement mean that we have overstated his involvement in team player selection? Thanks, Allie from I don't know if it's Allie or Ali from San Antonio, Texas.
All right. Help me find a piece of paper over here, Shannon. I'm looking for one. It could be right there, would you? I'm just going to say this. I have addressed this. Is there another piece over there where this was? I have addressed this a lot. Okay. I said it. And all I'm going to say is this. I think that he is a man that speaks with integrity. I think he's a good man. And Mark Davis said he was going to be involved in a quarterback. John Spytek, Pete Carroll said he was going to be involved in selecting a quarterback. And since the draft, John Spytek, let me just pull this up. So give me a second here. I know this looks nerdy with me down here, but I'm trying to pull up a comment. So if you'll bear with me for 1 second, I want to read you a quote. Help me here. I'm looking, Shannon.
Is that one?
Yeah, here we go. I want to read you. In speaking to The Athletic, Tom Brady's involvement in the draft process, Spytek said that the Raiders would have been fools. That fools is a quote, not to loop him in when it comes to quarterbacks. Then he revealed the things that Brady liked about Cam Miller and said he liked the way Miller um, threw it, his technique, throwing from the ground up, and his motion. This is what Spytek told Dan Pompei of The Athletic, and he thought he had the potential to improve. So I don't think Tom Brady's a liar. I don't. I know John Spytek isn't. I also think that you got to show Tom Brady a little grace here. He's friends with the father. He's friends with the son. I have addressed this ad nauseum. Do I think Tom Brady had input? Yes.
You've said that numerous of times.
Numerous of times. Do I think that makes Tom Brady an unethical man trying to walk a tightrope for a friend? Not in the least bit. I'm good with it. And I understand you got to approach it any other way, but Tom Brady's presence on this team has not been underreported or overreported. I think it's been reported extremely fairly. So there you go. Next one.
Okay. Hondo, I have never emailed, but I have been a fan for a long time before you covered the Raiders. I
wow.
heard you on a radio show discussing the development of Geno Smith and comparing him to Cam Miller and Aiden O'Connell. You talked about throwing people away, but I came in the middle of it. Could you please email me or discuss that on the pod? Gerald, why?
Yeah, that was an interview I did on Thursday, a national interview, and I talked about we live in a society where we throw people away.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about all of you. I'm sure all of you are perfect, but I know you and I aren't. I am grateful that, I think I'm a different husband today than when we got married. I think you're a different wife, and I loved you then. So it doesn't mean I didn't love you. But we live in a society of just let's throw people away.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get that. And people wanted to throw Geno Smith away. People wanted to throw Bill Walsh away. People wanted to throw Don Shula away. People have wanted to throw Geno Smith away. I think I said Geno already. I apologize. There were people at Michigan that wanted to throw Tom Brady away. All of these people turned out. There are people that told Thomas Edison, "You're a failure."
Mm-hmm.
Einstein, Newton. You show me somebody that's never failed, and I'll show you somebody that's never taken a risk.
Mm-hmm.
You show me somebody that's never failed, and I'll show you somebody that's never accomplished anything. And I always laugh when people say, that guy's a bum, get rid of him. Okay. He's making more money than you'll probably make in a lifetime playing a game that you can't. And he's a bum. He may not be the best. I literally, I cannot believe the way people, let's just use Aiden, but it's every team has a player. He sucks. He's terrible. Get rid of him. Oh, I know there's not enough there. And then you look at where his numbers are through 2 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
and compared to some other people, and he's got better numbers. And you're like, okay, these same people would have hated Colton Miller. It's like I laugh when you go back and look at what media people said about the Raiders picking Colton Miller. Not all, but a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible pick, wasted pick. Oh, okay, yeah, he's great now. And so what happens is people see these guys. You look at Ashton Jeanty, he literally looks like God took a piece of granite and chiseled him. I'm going to tell you a funny thing, Shannon. I've never seen a human being with his body. It's solid muscle. I would bet money. Awesome. I wouldn't bet money, but he's got to have less than 1% body fat. And I mean, he looks like a piece of granite chiseled. He looks like a small version of the Incredible Hulk running the football. And so they look at these guys and say, oh man, they make all this money, whatever. Okay, well, when you were 22 coming out of college, were you the best in your field? Brock Bowers is a unicorn, a rookie that comes in and dominates. He is a unicorn. Dan Marino was a unicorn. And so we throw people away. Okay. And Antonio Pierce failed as the head coach of the Raiders. That's a fact. There's no reason to throw.
Right.
Okay. The Raiders made the right move moving on.
Right.
Okay. But that's a guy that I wish him nothing but the best. Okay. There were people who wanted to throw Pete Carroll away. When Pete Carroll took the job at SC, there were people that said, I'm done. I'm never giving another dime to that school. Pete Carroll sucks. Oh, by the way, he saved the program, goes to Seattle, wins another championship there. And now he comes to Vegas and everybody's like, woo! Okay. But
yeah,
am I that boring?
No.
But my point to you is, I think the best thing to happen to Aiden O'Connell, and listen, I don't know what Aiden's going to be, but I think the best thing for him is he gets to sit behind Gino. And Gino's a man of integrity. And Gino's going to say, you know what, kid, I've been where you are. I got a shot early. Everyone said I sucked, but I kept learning. I kept growing. You got the skills.
That's great.
This is why I love to be a dream builder and not a dream killer. I'm an encourager. I am, people come to me, I failed here, here, and here. Great. I've said this before on the podcast, and we always get email from it. If you're watching this podcast and you're sitting in jail today or you're sitting in prison and you've made a lot of really, really bad decisions, your life's not over.
Right.
Your life isn't over. You may be sitting here today. Maybe you just went through a bad divorce. Maybe it was your fault. Maybe you didn't want it. You may have just lost a job. I don't know what difficulty you've gone through in your life. You are valuable.
Right.
You have value. You matter. You count. You're incredible. At one point in your life, you beat 1 in 300 million odds. When your mom and dad made you, it's roughly 1 in 300 million sperm, and you're won the race. You've already defeated 1 in 300 million odds once in your life. The fact that you're breathing says you're a winner. I'm sorry, I just don't believe in throwing people away.
Right.
And I don't think you do either.
No.
So that's what I was talking about. It was about the quarterback position and how I think that Gino is going to be great for Cam. All right, let's keep going. Man, we got a lot of questions today.
We do. Hondo, when you used Carl Banks, Chris Spielman, or Barry Sanders comparisons, it makes my heart smile. Any comparison for Jackson Powers Johnson? I love that kid. And your interviews with him and all the players in the locker room are classic. Jason N. from Bend, Oregon.
Jason, I love JPJ. Matter of fact, the first time I interviewed JPJ, remember that? I was walking out of the locker room and I called Shannon. I go, I'm walking out of the locker room. She goes, okay, what do you need? Like, that's what you do. It's not a big deal. I said, sweetie, I just interviewed JPJ because you knew I was high on the kid, but I didn't really know him at all. And I said, I love this kid.
Right.
He's just got he's a football player now. There are just some guys that's a football player. That's football player. That's just who he is. That's football player. It's just like, and I can say this because I'm sitting next to the prettiest one I've ever seen. When I met you September 9th, 1981, it was a Wednesday. I was 10, she was 8. I'm like, yep. That's a keeper. And just you were an 8-year-old little girl and you just consumed my brain. And not for the reason some of you perverts think. I was 10. And she still played with Barbies. But my point was, you just look at and I love JPJ. So yes, I have a comparison. One of my favorite football players of all time, This man, in my opinion, is on the top 5 of my all-time favorites. Mike Webster, the Pittsburgh Steelers center. Mike Mike Webster, man. That guy was just, I remember one time he just got blood all over his face, and his fingers were all mangled and blood, and he's out there. That is JPJ, man. He's just like, oh, I'm bloody. Yeah, let's keep playing. And I'm muddy, and just rub some dirt. I have a broken finger. Who cares, man? Let's just play ball. What are you laughing at? Why? Because you're funny. I'm not trying to be funny.
Well, you are.
I mean, I just love guys that I love the guys that are just like, I'm gonna. I mean, I just love people that love the game, that love practice, that love watching film, that just, and he just has that okay, what I'm about to say is a compliment. Some of you won't take it that way. This is a sport where at any moment you could lose your life. People have gotten paralyzed playing this game. So to play this game with an edge, you got to be somewhat a little crazy. You got to have a little bit of, I'm coming. And every football player knows when I step on that field, I'm risking my life. But I love it. I love it. Mike Webster played that way. It was a privilege to watch Mike Webster. Now, let me tell you a great story. Many of you know who George Perlis is. If you don't, Google him. Like a second father to me. I loved George with my whole heart. Still friends with his sons today. I love George. I don't like him. I loved him and was very, very, very close to him. And I remember George was an assistant coach with Pittsburgh during the Steel Curtain age. And my dad was friends with George. And matter of fact, George was the inventor of the stud 4-3 defense with Hank Bulla, who I've talked about on this show many times. But George invented the 4-3. Remember the Steel Curtain, that stunt 4-3? And so George had given us tickets, and we went there and went to him and Sally's house. I call the Sally's house after the game in Pittsburgh, and Mike Webster came over, and I got to meet him. And I remember I was just a little kid, and I loved him, and the mangled and just after a game, and he's walked up, and I go, Mr. Webster, and he goes, yeah. I go, my name's Hondo Carpenter. He goes, nice to meet you, Hondo Carpenter. He bent down, got down on one knee, and I go, you're my favorite player ever behind Mean Joe Green. Now, Mean Joe was there too. And so he goes, well, thanks. And I remember we were sitting there on George and Sally's near the pool table by the bar and sitting there, and literally he's eating pretzels all night. He's just pounding pretzels, and we're talking football. And he's just about, breaking down and what do you look for? And I mean, I'm just in awe. And I'll never forget, my dad said to me, all right, son, we got to go. And I'm like, Dad, I'm talking to Mr. Webster. He's like, and George goes, you can spend the night, Bobby. He goes, let him talk to Mike. And I just remember, and we talked, and then literally Mike left, and then we got in the car and drove all night back to Michigan because it was a Sunday and I had to be in school. And but we drove all night to get home, and the whole time home, my dad looked at me at one point and he said, "Son, I have heard the entirety of this conversation now for 5 times. I don't need to hear it again. But if you want to tell me, you go right ahead." I'm like, "But did you hear this?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I heard it the first 5 times. So why don't you tell me again?" And so JPJ is that kind of guy. He has that love of the game. Mike Webster didn't care that I was a little brat kid. He cared about, I love the game. He loved the game. So it was just 2 guys talking. Shannon and I one time were driving, and there were these kids playing football out in a field. And I watched this one kid blocking, and I just stopped the car. And I said, "Hey, buddy, can I help you for a minute?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, he was blocking like this. I said, "Get your hands up, grab the shirt." And he goes, "Well, that's holding." I said, "Not if you keep it between the shoulders." I may have used a different word, but I'm not going to use it here. But keep it on the shoulders. And I said, and the refs won't ever call it. He's like, "Okay." And I mean, I'm coaching football to 6 or 7 kids playing. You either love the game or you hate the game. Mike Webster loved it. JPJ's got a little bit of that Mike. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? Next week at OTAs, I'm going to tell JPJ I compared him to Mike Webster. I'm going to ask him what he thinks of that. I don't even know if he's old enough to know who Mike Webster. He isn't, but yeah, that question got me. I'm sorry. I'll stop. I can tell you.
No, I'm enjoying this. I'd like to see you get this excited about a few other things in life, not just football. Wow, that was impressive.
You excite me like that. I love blessing you.
Go back and watch this when we're done. Wow. You love this game. That's why I love that you have the best job ever, because you get to cover at what you love. And that's fantastic, because not a lot of people get to do that.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
You know, let me just say a minute to all you people who watch and read. Thank you that you allow me to do this. I love it. You're right. I do. I love the game of football, and it has been very good to me.
It has, but it's fun. A little bit. I'm like, I'm getting a little bit too excited over there, Carp. And then it's like, yeah, all right.
Sorry.
Don't apologize. Your fans love that you love it, because that makes your coverage better. Whether you agree or disagree, I don't really care. I think it's true. All right, Hondo, funny story. I was at a coaching clinic and PJ Fleck, the head coach at Minnesota, spoke. I went up to meet him and told him how often you speak fondly of him. He told me that you were a great friend and how he respected your football knowledge and friendship. Anyways,
PJ is a great friend of ours. We love PJ. Love him.
Anyways, I am a high school coach here in Ohio and wanted to know what is the hardest position to scout. Carter P.
Well, that is a great question. That is a great question. I'm going to tell you, I think quarterback is, because there are some guys that, and I'm assuming he's talking from high school to college. There are some guys that have the raw talent, but you don't know if they have the mindset to improve. I've seen 5-star kids that are so convinced they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, they never make it to the NFL. And I've seen no stars. I mean, look at Kirk Cousins.
Right.
You may think Kirk's a terrible quarterback, but he's made hundreds of millions of dollars playing the game. And he was a guy that was essentially a nobody prospect.
Right.
But had the mentality, I'm going to be somebody. Mm-hmm. And he bet on himself. That's why I love Malcolm Kuntz. Malcolm Kuntz, man, I love the way that kid just could have went places, could have got more money, and he just is like, "Nah, I'm a Raider now. I'm Patrick Graham's here. These guys believed in me. I'm staying here. I'm betting on myself, baby." I love that. I love that. Huh? What?
Your excitement. I just said.
Well, but I love that. I love people like that. And you know, I'm a rugged individualist. I love people who say, "I'm betting on me." Mm-hmm. I'm betting not because I'm an egomaniac. I'm betting because I know what's in here.
Well, that's why you're such a good encourager, because you believe in everybody else too. When you believe in them and can see what they can be, then you've always been my biggest fan. You're like that with other people too.
So if you're asking from high school to college, here's the other one. Guys are still growing when they get to the pros.
Yes.
So if you're going from high school to college, I'm going to give you an example. I knew a kid, I'm not going to use his name because I'm not trying to embarrass him, who was a super high recruit. Gets to college and grows 5 inches and no longer was a super player at the position he played.
Makes sense. Makes complete sense.
And so that's really hard because you can't scout genes.
Yes, that's very true.
So if it's from high school to college, that's the hardest part about scouting. If it's pro to college,
College pro.
I mean, college to pro, the hardest part there, and that's a great question. And by the way, our special guest, I'm going to ask him about this if we're able to make that happen. It's coming on the show. Hopefully, it's not set in stone yet, but I think it's going to happen. It's not set in stone just because of our schedules. It's not because of him not wanting to do it. But I think there's a couple things. Number one is great college players is the mind. It's learning Brian Urlacher. I mean, Brian freaking Urlacher. I mean, if you ever just watch that guy play football, he's an instinctual animal that can smell the oblong ellipsoid. He just, it seemed like wherever the football was, see ball, get ball. Brian Urlacher. He could smell it. And if you don't, a football is an oblong ellipsoid. And so when you watched Brian Urlacher, I mean, here he is. He's a player coming out of New Mexico, and all of a sudden you're like, a little something there. This kid's got a little something. But he had the will. Bobby Knight, the great Hall of Fame coach at Indiana. You've heard him say this before, but I'll never forget him and I talking about this one time when he literally said to me, when I talked about being great, he said, everybody wants to be great. Nobody wants to lose. You're playing checkers with your mom. You want to beat her. He goes, but do they have the will to prepare to win? And that's the hardest thing from college to pros, getting in somebody's mind, trying to figure out. This is why I hated the Wonderlic test. I hate that test because that test doesn't tell me how strong is your want to. How bad do you want to? You want to lose weight? Great. Don't talk about it. Be about it. How strong is your want to? That is the hardest thing to judge is how strong is your want to? For those of you sitting at home today, maybe you've been a really bad husband and your marriage is failing, or you've been a bad wife, your marriage is failing. Okay, how strong is your want to go fix it? Because every marriage goes through seasons where the easy thing is to quit. That's why you want to marry somebody with a want to. Hey, we're going to make this work. You're tired of me? Great. Go take a nap. We'll see you when you wake up. We're going to start over. How strong you want to, don't I didn't have a dad. Okay. Then my father, my grandfather died when my dad was very young. So my father purposed in his heart, I'm going to be a great dad. Now, my grandfather was a very good dad, but my dad was young. Mm-hmm. And my dad purposed, I am going to be a great dad. He didn't know how long he would live, but I'm going to be a great dad. How strong is your want to? And that's hard. That is really hard to gauge somebody's want to. How do you gauge that? So I have learned in my scouting from being around PJ and other many coaches I'm friends with, they look for the little things. Mm-hmm. Shannon and I were once with a head coach, and he talked about liking to take guys out to meals. Just get them away from football. What's your commitment? It's like the Raiders. They took some of their potential draft picks to Top Golf. Mm-hmm. And Ashton was competing to win it. Are you trying to give me a hint here?
No, my arm was going.
Oh, your arm's going on? And Ashton was competing to win, and he's I mean, those are the things. Those are the difficult things. And I can tell you, every GM, every coach, everybody that we know in the game of football, that is the hardest thing to gauge. Right. Is how strong is your want to? Now, NIL in college has helped because it used to be guys would get to the NFL, and once they had money, it changed them. Now a lot of them have money. Okay, let's keep going.
Super true. Very true. Hondo, I appreciate as a woman the respect and honor that you show your wife. I met you last year with a lot of other fans in New Orleans when the Raiders played. And even with no camera and her not around, you did the same. You have a fan for life. If you could make a trade purely on your own, what would you do? From N. Petrovic in Louisiana.
If I had a what?
If you could make a trade purely on your own, what would you do?
I was listening to what she said about being in New Orleans. I remember calling you at the Super Bowl, telling you how much I missed you, and that was literally well, doesn't matter, but that's pretty cool. Thank you, Miss Petrovic. Um, if I could make a trade right now, I would call the Cincinnati Bengals and trade for Trey Hendrickson. He is the best defensive tackle, and the Raiders have the cap space. He's very, very young. I signed him to a mega deal. He's going to be there forever. And you now have Christian Wilkins, Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, Adam Butler, Malcolm Coons. I make that trade right now because I don't think there is a linebacker like that available or a corner. So what do? You double down on your strength. And how did the New York Giants? Some of you guys are too young, but the undefeated New England Patriots go into the Super Bowl against the New York G-Men. I was there. Everyone's saying when the Patriots win, they're going to be the greatest NFL football team of all time. How? And I have friends. We have friends that played in that game. And how did they win the game? They were able to get pressure with 4 men, 7 guys back there. So how do you compensate for maybe a thin linebacker core or a thin corner core? You have 7 back there and only rush freaking 4 brutal men who have the mangled coming to get you. Oh, I love that Al Davis quote. The quarterback must go down early and he must go down hard. I used a Howard Cosell voice, sorry. But my point is, I would go trade for Trey Hendrickson today.
All right. Very good. Hondo. I found it ironic that Seattle picked MorE in third with a Raider pick traded to them for Geno Smith. Do you have an idea how Raiders MorE rated? Would they have picked him late in third if Seattle had not? I know the Raiders need OL picks taken in third. Also, MorE definitely a project, but with O'Connell as a backup, it seems they could have given him 2 years to develop while using him on a run pass option package, goal line short yardage, and see where he is in 2 years. I assume that's what Seattle will do since they have Darnold. Thanks for your coverage, Dennis McCoy in Naples, Florida.
Yeah, I talked a lot about MorE, and I'm not really going to go back there. Not because he's a bad player, but I think there were a lot of people that really liked Jalen, but he was extremely raw, had a lot of comparables to Lamar, but I don't think the Raiders would have pulled the trigger on him in the 3rd round. I just leave it right there. I don't think they would have. Now I think that was now are we on to the warning? Okay, let's go to the next one. Holy Toledo, babe. We're an hour. You're very vociferous today. We're an hour and 2 minutes in. Let's go. You're going to beat me up?
No, it's your excitement.
Sorry.
Mimicking your excitement.
It's a holiday. I'm excited. We're celebrating with BLTs, and you make the best BLTs in the world. She makes the best BLTs and homemade broccoli cheese soup. Oh, so good. And euchre. Oh, and euchre. Best card game ever. Let's go.
Mr. Uncle Hondo. My name is Cody and I'm 11. My dad died. He is in the Army and he was fighting for America. We love the Raiders. I watch your podcast with my grandpa and he taught my dad to love the Raiders. I just wanted to say thank you for on Friday thanking my family for my dad dying. It made Grandpa and all of us cry happy tears. Go Raiders, go USA. Thank you for great Raiders information. Grandpa said we should email and thank you just for teaching people what Memorial Day is. Bye, Cody. Thank you, buddy.
Oh, man.
We love that kind of stuff.
Cody, let me just tell you, my dad did not die for our country but was one of our war fighters. Your dad is a hero. Mm-hmm. How cool is that? I mean, other kids get to read about superheroes. Your dad was one.
Yep.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And at the same time, there's days when it's like, I wish it wasn't cool and I could just have my dad.
Yep.
Thank God you have a grandpa
For
as
sure.
part of your life. And think about this one, as your grandpa raised a superhero.
Yeah.
And so now he gets to help raise you, Cody. How cool is that? Listen, I want you to do me a favor. I sent an email that you sent to me asking your grandpa to reach out to me. I'm not going to interact with you because you're a minor. But if you will have grandpa reach out to me, I put my information in there. I want to send you a Raiders care package.
Sounds good.
I just think there may be a couple of people that would like to throw something in that box.
Sure.
I think Miss Shannon may have a couple of friends that may want to throw a thing or two in there.
Maybe.
You never know. We'd like to send you a package, but listen, I just want to say something to you, Cody. I am really grateful for your dad.
Yeah.
Grateful. And the overwhelming majority of human beings who call themselves Americans are grateful for your dad. And think about this. So on this day, every year, America stops to say, thanks, Cody. Thanks. What a great email. Man, we have such great listeners.
Yes, we do.
God bless you, Cody. All right, now is it a warning?
Yes.
Okay, so before we get to the next two questions are not football related, but there's only one new one. Last week, somebody asked a question and I answered it and never let you. And I apologize. And as soon as the podcast was over, Shannon's like, they asked for my opinion and yours. And I'm like, oops, did I do that? So I asked her if she would answer. So read the email. Do you have it? Read it real quick.
All right.
And then I want you to read the new one.
Hondo and Shannon, I love the podcast and the two of you. I have a weird question, but a fun one. My wife is my best friend, and I adore her like Hondo does you, Aunt Shannon. We are preparing to celebrate our first anniversary, and we don't have a lot of money, but we will. We are both in college. As Raider fans, we both watch the podcast together, but she loves it even more now that Shannon is on. Any inexpensive ideas on a gift? It won't always be inexpensive, but thought you might have some advice. Mike P. from California.
And so remember, I talked about make a coupon book and give her coupons for one free house chore. So if you split the house chores because you're both in school and both working, then she can come to you one day and she says, hey, you know what? This is my Tuesday to vacuum. You're doing it. Coupon books are great and it doesn't cost anything and it's effort and it's fun. What's your suggestion?
What I was going to tell you is every woman loves pictures. So take your wife to the beach or somewhere where you have a really pretty background and take selfies with her because women love pictures and selfies and pictures with their man. My husband hates it, but he does it for
I
me.
don't hate it.
Well, you don't enjoy it.
I
You'd
know.
call me a Japanese tourist.
You do. You take so many pictures.
But do that and then go to Walmart or somewhere and print it off and put it in a frame because you'll always have that to look back on for your first anniversary and keep it somewhere where you can just look at it and say, I mean, it's always going to be a reminder of where you were at and what you did and why you went inexpensive. And you're going to be able to look back on it and either laugh or whatever. It's a great inexpensive idea and your wife will love it. And yeah.
And you take the picture with your phone and you can go to Walmart and develop it for, I think it's
29 cents for a 4x6.
And you can actually get
8x10.
Yeah, you can get a frame for $1
or less than $5.
Yeah, at a dollar store. That's a great gift. In fact, we have a custom made pool table and we have a pool table room in our house. And the entire walls are hundreds of pictures.
Like picture walls, yes.
Our entire wall covered in pictures. You
from top to bottom.
Literally from the bottom of the floor all the way to the ceiling.
And we're not done.
Next.
All right. Hondo and Shannon, my wife and I would love to adopt. We can afford to raise and pay for a child. We can't afford the enormous cost of adoption. It is so sad. Do you have any suggestions? We see the joy Dexter Ernest Wayne Carpenter brings to your lives, but we do not have your resources for the adoption costs. Thank you for any advice, and we love your podcast. Terry and Gina S.
Wow, we hear that a lot.
We were blessed. It was actually tomorrow will be 3 years ago that we found out about Dexter's birth mom, and the whole story unfolded. Tomorrow will be 3 years ago. And so it was a blessing for us that we had talked about. I'm sure you guys have heard, and it just kind of landed in our lap. And very thrilled about it, and we love it. It was amazing.
Now, I know this in the state of Michigan, where we're natives of, they have what's called a MARE book. And that is a book for children that they consider unadoptable, where there isn't the adoption fees. This may be older children. A lot of people want babies. We were looking at adopting a sibling group before we adopted Dexter that were 3 older children. I don't remember what I think they were like 6, 7, and 8, or 7, 8, and 9.
Something like that.
But a lot of people would consider them to be unadoptable. How terrible is that to say that?
That's awful. I know that there are states also that have, oh, it's not, it's kind of like funding, but it's, what do you call it? Like some type of benefits that you can get where they will like help you pay for adoption, overseas adoptions. My cousin,
I didn't know.
yeah, my cousin Kristen went through that when they adopted their kids from
I didn't know.
somewhere south. But the other thing is, and a lot of people don't want to go this route, but if you do the foster route and adopt, it's not, the cost really isn't there other than what it costs to become a foster parent. It's more work. I don't know if that's a route you guys have thought about or talked about. The other piece of that is finding a caseworker just to talk to and preparing your home for it and seeing, because sometimes the caseworker may say, hey, this is coming up or this is coming up, or if you do go that route, just let your caseworker know, hey, we will go the foster route. However, we only want to take placements that are going to be for sure adoptions, so you don't have to go through. I mean, there are options. You just kind of have to seek out what's going to work best for your family. Number one, whether it's okay to adopt somebody that's older versus a baby, because everybody has their own opinions on that. And maybe find a caseworker, get your home ready, and see what door will get opened up for you.
But a lot of people shut the door on older children, and we were told this. Our adoption lady was wonderful, and,
Yeah, she was.
and she was not the same color as us. And she said that a lot of people don't want a baby that doesn't match their color. And she goes, that's not white saying they don't want it. She goes, it's almost universal. Most people, and who cares what race your kid is? Who cares? Who cares? Dexter is not our race. I could care less. That's my boy now.
Exactly.
And that is all daddy's boy. And he loves his mommy. I'm not minimizing mommy. But my point is, who cares? Who really cares? Just.
But I think I'd start with finding a caseworker in your area and just calling them and just saying, hey, this is what we want to do. What's your thoughts? How do we go about doing this? I mean, there's options and they're out there. Don't give up.
And you know what? Here's the whole deal. You don't be scared of the process.
Yes, don't.
Where God guides, God always provides. And we have too many children that need a wonderful home. And be willing.
Yes.
Be willing. It is the best thing you've ever done. With Dexter, how many people have said to us, I can't believe what you guys did for Dexter. And we always stop and say, are you nuts? Do you know what Dexter's done for us? And just be open to it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Who cares if it's a boy? Who cares if it's a girl? Who cares if it's your color, not your color? It's your kid. and it's a great thing. All right, everybody. Happy Memorial Day. God bless you all. Have a good one. We'll talk to you again super soon. Thanks for joining me, Shannon.
Yeah.